Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having an incredible day. It is absolutely gorgeous here in California. It is 80 degrees by the beach. It's just absolutely gorgeous and super hot today. Just enjoying that weather. How are you guys doing? Welcome to the live. Today, we're going to be talking about day 2 of our challenge. And in today's challenge, we're going to be talking about the second point in our challenge, which is how to deal with change. We're going to talk about the mechanics of change, how to work with change, the process of integration of change biochemically, bioelectrically, taking a look at all of the aspects of working with transformation, the dynamics in the bigger picture of change, and the role that change plays in the bigger picture of your existence.
Hi everyone,
Okay.
I hope you guys are having an amazing day.
Sorry, just a moment. Let me go ahead and put this live here so that we can take a look at it. And if you want to go ahead and share this, please do go ahead. Let me go ahead. Hey, Jason, welcome. Let me go ahead and change the name of this. Hold on, stay on page. 1 second. Let's go ahead and get the technical issues out of the way first. All right, so let's take a look at talking about endings. We're talking about the endings of things, how to handle endings of things. That's basically what the topic is today. So let's jump right in. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I want to share with you. This part of our challenge is really important because one of the most difficult parts of being able to accept life and death and the cycles of life and death is understanding those cycles and the role that they play in the bigger picture of our creation and our life experiences. It's very difficult for us sometimes to accept transformation and change because we are completely attached to an identity, a part of ourselves, an idea, a concept, a thought. So the ability to be able to move beyond those thoughts is an art. It's an art form, and it requires a deep integration of many parts of yourself. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that as we review these 30 days of learning to integrate death and rebirth. Now, the first point that I want to take you guys to is understanding the cycles of life and death that exist within the collective whole. Okay, what we are dealing with is experiencing the dualistic nature of this existence in which we are constantly moving within and in between the yin and the yang, the contractive and expansive experiences and energies of this universe. Okay, so every single life experience is an expression of this expansion or this contraction. That's the first thing that we need to understand. Endings and finishing and letting go of experiences, people, places, and things is very challenging when we do not understand the natural order of these dualistic energies in our life, subconsciously, how we participate in the creation of the expansion and contraction of these, and also how we are creating and manifesting these experiences as a result of the greater cycles that our soul is here to experience. Okay, so at the time of incarnation, remember that the entire manifestation of your existence is intricately designed by the cause and effect of the actions of every single ancestor before you, which essentially exists simultaneously in the creation of yourself as an individual organism. And the ability for you as this organism to navigate this three-dimensional plane in order to experience duality has to have some kind of construct, some kind of design for the way that you are experiencing that contrast. And that will be in the way, in the filters of perception that you take on at the time of coming into this dimensional plane. Now, Those filters of perception are going to bind you to certain belief systems about the ebb and flow and cause and effect, contraction and expansion. Your life experiences will contribute to either feeling comfortable in states of expansion or uncomfortable in states of expansion. For most of us, because we are repeating limiting belief systems, we are usually quite familiar with contraction, but we are not familiar with expansion. And so, in the process of healing, in the process of integrating, in the process of accessing these higher realms of understanding, learning to become familiar with expansion is the antidote. And in order to be okay with expansion, we have to be okay with collecting and experiencing several experiences that will allow us to experience contrast, that will allow us to experience something outside of that contractive norm or repeated pattern that you are used to experiencing in your life. Therefore, when we experience endings of something, something that we are used to having, something that we have become familiar with, which is familiarity will always be the death of the human because it becomes a comfort zone. It becomes a place in which we become stagnant. Okay, and so let's go deeper into that, because how can we create stagnation in a realm in which, first of all, nothing is really linear? Okay, so let's talk about time, and then we're going to go into the way that energy becomes stagnant in these time cycles. It's important for us first to understand how time functions. We believe, through the filter of this duality, because duality is two sides to things, dualistic expressions, we believe that there is a past and a future. That is how that dualistic um, uh, expression is measured within our dimensional plane. We can measure experiences by creating something called time, and that time has a beginning and an end. It has a past and a future, and everything that we are experiencing is moving along that line. However, how this actually really works is that it creates an illusion for the construct that we're existing in. We believe that because this time is linear, it means that something that happened no longer exists, and something that potentially will happen is something that we can experience next, without taking into consideration the greater laws of co-creation. And the greater laws in this case are vibrational frequency. In this holographic construct, what defines the experience that we're going to be having is the input into the hologram. Okay, remember that in order for something to be holographic, we need to project. There has to be an origin point of the projection, which is the data, the information that is then projected into the hologram of this holographic construct. That is everything that we know as the matrix. And we perceive these experiences through our measurement of time as a past and a future, because we also see that our form evolves and changes in some way from what we believe babies, let's say the infant, we believe that the infant state is actually the most, uh, um, let's say, the one that has the least experience would be the infant stage, the infancy stage of our development. And the one that is the wisest, we believe, is the older, the elder, the sage, right? And so we're kind of moving in and out of these archetypal stages of development that we have also created in order to make sense of the evolutionary process that we're experiencing through the physical body. Also, the physical body goes through a deterioration process, right? So when we're young, we're vibrant, we have energy. And as we get older, we begin to feel the impact of our choices, which begin to affect the physical organism. Now, all of this is also based on an understanding that is deeply programmed in our holographic construct, that the way that we live, we don't understand that the way that we live affects the longevity of this organism. So there are many parts to this that we need to begin to question when it comes to our concept of past and future. Um, Essentially, what is actually occurring is that we are existing in a cyclical motion of time, a cyclical motion of experience, of existence. Everything is experienced in the now moment through the present awareness of the consciousness becoming aware of itself in this moment. It has the only power of co-creation than in any other moment. Okay, so there are certain laws and dynamics to being in the present moment. When we are fully present, that is really the only time that you have to affect this holographic contact in vivo, in this live moment. If we are in unconscious states, what happens is that all we do is we repeat things. Okay, we repeat things. So this is the difference. How do we know that there is a difference between this linear and cyclical timeline? We're experiencing it all the time, and our lives are a fractal demonstration of that mechanical expression, that repeating things over and over again, essentially are what we are in a constant states of hypnosis. Remember that hypnosis, we repeat over and over again in order for the human to go into a trance-like state where they are disconnected from their physical functions, and then the mind is gently deepened into a different brain wave in order to experience subconscious levels of themselves. Okay, so all that we are doing essentially is repeating patterns over and over again, when we are in an unconscious, not self-aware state. And this is where we mostly experience the illusion of linear time. It isn't until we come into the present moment that we begin to notice the cyclical patterns that are available to us, that we are running through, right? Our entire life turns out to be 12 years of the same kind of interactions with people outside of us, the same limitations, the same programs, the same fears, the same anxieties, all participating in these cyclical patterns. Now, through our lifetime, we have several constructs that we created in order to experience the different stages of our evolutionary process. Evolution is a natural expression of this entire construct. Everything is moving, everything is changing. That is something that we need to understand, that the only constant in this construct, in this holographic structure, is change. When we are not embodying that change movement, we are dying. We are always dying. We are always going into a state of suffering. Okay, so let's take a look at these, which is the basis of many of the ancient cultures that talk about the universal laws of nature, which are divided into 4 stages for the elements of the earth, and also the 4 stages of life, where we experience a winter, a spring, a summer, and a fall. We can say, for example, that the winter is, for example, the old age, right? This is the stage of death. Later in our late adulthood is when we most experience tragedies and those the effects of the cause and effect cycle of this life experience. In our summertime, we are in this adulthood where we experience creation abilities. It can be romance or the integration of the other, the self and the other, so like relationships. And at the very immature state, we are experiencing birth, perhaps stages of rebirth, in our spring. Okay, so we are basically moving through the cycles of these stages in many areas of our lives. Subconsciously and consciously, we are repeating these kinds of cyclical patterns. So one of the things when it comes to endings of things is that we need to understand that ending, as you can see, that the death is only one part of these cyclical patterns of the universe. And what will define the transmutation of one stage to another is the evolutionary input that we put into the transformation, the awareness that we hold within the transition of one stage to another, is what will define how we experience that transformation. Okay, and how it will affect us. It's also going to define whether we are in alignment with the natural cycles of nature, or if we are falling out of alignment with the natural cycles of nature. Okay, remember that as how we are moving through these cycles of nature is essentially working with energy, because it is all about the vibrational frequency that we are holding within the body. Energy never dies, it just changes form. That is the law of this universe. So when we think about endings, I want you to understand that everything is energy, everything is life force that is gently transforming. So essentially, nothing ever truly ends. It just transforms. It just begins to change its form from one matter to another. And usually it's going from a denser state into a higher state because of that natural evolutionary overlay that all organisms in this construct are participating in naturally. We have that as part of the laws. So what happens when we come into states of stagnation, resistance, denial, or fear in these evolutionary cycles? We are essentially storing energy, stagnating energy. And what happens is that we cannot move through that transduction process. And remember, the transduction process is, again, where this energy is moving from one form to another energy. Okay, so I mentioned before that our purpose here on this planet Earth is essentially to learn how to move from one form of energy to another. We are literally experiencing that. Your physical body is the vessel of this energy that is experiencing a transmutation from its most densest state into a highest state. When we are born, we are actually at a very high vibrational frequency state. We are collecting programs up until the age of 7, which create filters of perception, which essentially create certain vibrational frequencies that we have to learn how to transmute and change in order to once again embody this unity state, going back to that infinite flow state. Okay, so we have to remember that being in a state of stagnation, resistance, or denial will keep us repeating over and over again. There will not be a movement, and essentially creating a knot in your multidimensional body. We know that because the physical body becomes deeply affected by these stagnation points in the body, to the point where it cannot expand. It becomes contracted in a state of disharmony with the collective flow of the whole. Okay, remember that when your chakra systems, when your energy centers of your body that are projecting into the holographic construct become stagnant, they become unconscious, we become disconnected from them, or through trauma, we no longer work with that energy center. It basically becomes distorted to the point where those parts of us become contracted, and then this creates illnesses in the body. So imagine this is one chakra. Let's say this is the sacral chakra. This is the right side of the body. This is the left side of the body. So the left side of the body is completely contracted, and that's usually where the human will experience all kinds of physical ailments, pains, attacks, complications in their body will all be manifested on the left side of the body, representing the feminine, which is, let's say, intuition, trust in the self. So you can be self-assured that this individual that has this kind of a chakra in the sacral is completely battling the imbalance of their feminine aspect of themselves. Remember that every side of our body is a fractal of the collective, that we are holding and storing information. So wherever a thought form becomes stagnant in the body, it essentially blocks source, life force through the source cord entering into the body, irrigating it with data information in order for it to expand its DNA and shift and expand its perception in the bigger picture. Okay, and we experience that in the body, because when we start to come into these contractive states of perception, hold on just a minute, let me find something, we essentially block our ability to enter into these heightened states of knowledge, of information. We block ourselves from seeing truth. Sorry, I'm not finding. Oh, here it is. Okay, we essentially block ourselves from going through that transmutational process. Okay, so for example, in this beautiful archetypal initiation cycle, we begin to experience separation. And the more that we experience separation from these ordinary states of being, so your everyday life, you begin to experience that separation, the duality. You go deep into that separation, which is the hypnotic state of disconnect. When you're in a state of disconnect from your source, from your higher self, you experience, your experience of the separation, of the dualistic construct, is heightened. Okay, so that heightened state of separation creates a tremendous amount of shock. And in this state, in this specific graph, they call it a dismemberment, where we begin to fall apart. All of our identity, all of the things that kept us together in this perception, in this idea about ourselves or idea about another, essentially becomes destroyed. Okay, and this is where we are cycling through that transformation stage of something coming to an end, where we come into a death of what we once thought existed. So what happens is this represents an ending. Okay, this represents the ending of something. This also represents the left side of the body, which is the subconscious mind. Okay, so when we start going through this subconscious layers of disconnect from the body, we are initiating the process of transformation within the higher order of things. And that transformation, this is how we utilize endings in order to experience that on the other side of every ending is a rebirth. It absolutely is the law, because everything in this universe is functioning in cyclical form. I'm going to explain that in just a moment. But the cyclical form and the cyclical nature of this construct, as above, so below, micro, macro, allows us to experience life in that birth stage, and then death as we enter from order into chaos, from the known into the unknown, from life into death, from the physical to the non-physical. We are beginning to experience this grappling for one state of comfort, one state of experience, and that is absolutely not what we are designed to experience. And this has to be very deeply integrated into our subconscious mind, that what we are here to experience is constant transformation, constant change. And the ability to integrate this process and this flow, this cycle, this life cycle of life and death within every area of our life is actually one of the most empowered states of being, where we begin to integrate the two dualities that exist within the subconscious mind. So this is where on the other side of that exists a rebirth, which is the rememberment, where we begin to collect our pieces, reintegration. That's why in DNA reprogramming sessions, our number one priority is to reintegrate the fractals of yourself that were created through trauma, through experiences of separation. Okay, the whole point is that we are moving from our stages of separation right back into unity. And this is a very painful thing for humans, because they feel that they don't know how to regroup themselves, how to come back into that stage of reintegration. Okay, so coming back, and one of the things that happens in that rememberment is that essentially the reintegration process, because we have to sit in a state of unknown, and we essentially have to become friends with the unknown. This is a part where we start to experience a lot of impatience and fear, and this is the dark night of the soul, essentially, when we don't know what to hold on to. We don't know what's real anymore. We don't know what's not real. We lose our footing of reality, because there has been a tower moment, you can say, or a moment in which our paradigm is shattered. It is necessary for these shattering of the paradigms in order to be able to embody a more expanded state. And that's exactly where we, after the integration, we go into an expanded of the ordinary. So whichever state you started at in this process of transformation will never be the same. You can never go back to the same thing again, ever, at any moment. Okay. You might repeat patterns. Okay, let's say you wake up consciousness and then you go right back to sleep again. You will never go back to the state from which you started. You will always grow and expand into another state through these processes. Whether your level of awareness through the process of an ending and a rebirth is going to define the level of your expansion. Okay, but you are always in an expansion of that ordinary, because there was a paradigm shift, there was a realization. One of the most difficult parts of this is that humans begin to doubt what they know, what they experience, what they have seen. Okay, being in a flow state doesn't mean ignoring or validating your own experiences. It's very important to value and to respect in a way the experiences that we have, and to allow ourselves to deep dive into those experiences so that we can understand what is needed to be integrated. That's why awareness is key. You can never enter into high states of consciousness if you don't have that awareness. Essentially, we are cycling through these archetypal aspects of ourselves in a lifetime. We're cycling through these archetypal aspects of ourselves throughout every single day. And in the bigger picture, your soul incarnated in the physical is also cycling through these archetypal cycles in the bigger picture. So in this lifetime, you can integrate many of these lives, many of these aspects of yourself. The more that you integrate of these, it means the older of a soul you are. That's, when they say, you're a very old soul, it means, you've incarnated many, many lifetimes, which means you've experienced many of these archetypal aspects of yourself as a soul. And you are experiencing those constant death and rebirth. And it's extremely important to remember this in your life right now, because if you're aware of these archetypes that you're playing out right now, you can begin to understand how to get to the next stage of your evolution. You have a little bit of a guidance there to help you in that navigation. Okay, so it's a really powerful process of moving through these cycles. I'm going to talk deeper about this when we talk about the cycles of death and transformation. We also see that in the astrological signs, right? This self-organization of infinite potential into an order of vibrational frequencies. Again, we can transcend every single one of these astrological influences of ourselves, but we're also doing this through lifetimes. So you may have been a Taurus many lifetimes, and your ability to transcend the lower aspect of the Taurian limitations will allow you to enter into next higher states. Okay. Also, your astrological sign, in a way, is an archetypal overlay that helps you understand your purpose in this lifetime. It's just a little guidance map. It doesn't mean that it's 100% what we need to, guide our life by. But it is very interesting how we have managed some level of a science to be able to understand our purpose and our existence based on a photograph of the universe encoded in your archetypal construct through your life and through your astrological sign. So another interesting thing is that these archetypal constructs that we are living through, when we reach high states of consciousness, or when we have lived many incarnations, you tend to be in the higher states of co-creation. You begin to understand the higher laws of the universe. And what I see is that every single soul that incarnated in this planet right now is in those higher stages at this time. They have access to all of that higher information. They are able to integrate, to heal, and to move their evolutionary timeline as a result of the work that they have done for many lifetimes. And many of you are ending many generational blockages in this lifetime collectively. That's a theme for all of those that are incarnating in this time. Now, another thing with endings that we need to pay attention to is the attachment, because what happens is that we become deeply attached. We believe that we are creatures of habit, meaning that we become very comfortable in certain states. But again, it's important for you to understand that the greater laws of this universe are constant change and transformation. So we need to learn how to let go of attachment, okay? Anytime that we are attaching to any idea about yourself, any personality, any identity, any archetype, any name, some of you say, I'm Lena the Arcturian. I'm just giving you an example. You completely create an entire identity around that, and what happens is that you limit yourself from being able to experience something beyond that. And so the natural laws of this universe will create circumstances and scenarios that will bring those identities to a challenge point where the universe is asking you to evolve beyond that and to transform beyond that. And what happens to individuals that don't follow that invitation for continuous evolution and transformation without holding on to an identity is that they essentially get sick, or they have to go through the law of accident where they continue to get challenged and challenged until they listen to that transformation. I'm going to talk a little more about this when we talk about cycles, but the design of this universe is cyclical. Okay, so absolutely everything, in order to be able to accept the ending of experiences, is to understand that the greater motions of this universe are based on cycles. The entire galaxies, the universe is moving in this cyclical form. The way energy moves through our body is cyclical, and the way that we are living our lives is cyclical as well. And the greater law that drives that cyclical pattern is resonance, your vibrational frequency. When you come into coherence with a certain frequency, you attract and you experience everything in that range of frequency that you are projecting. So this is super important. When you change your vibrational frequency, you're going to experience a lot of endings in a lot of departments of your life. So you have to be able to understand that your continuous work in this continuous change of yourself, your personal development, is the key to this constant transformation. And that as long as you are changing, as long as you are healing, as long as you are moving, you must understand that every stage will come with different environment around you as a result of the internal work that you're doing. Relationships will end, circumstances in your life will end, which also leads to the invitation: don't get stuck on any one state of being. Allow yourself to go through that ending so that you can come into the rebirth that is available for you, to the new opportunities. This is true in romantic relationships, it's true in family relationships. We are in the illusion in this construct, and a lot of it is fed by social engineering, that everything is finite, that death is the end. And that is the biggest untruth that we have to deprogram from our subconscious being, from ourself, from every cell in the body, in order to understand that all things, including relationships, including families sometimes, we need to evolve, move through. We're changing the way that we have these experiences and relationships, and we are also changing the vibrational frequency in which we house in our bodies, which will change our surroundings as a result. So most of what makes endings incredibly painful is the addictions that we are biochemically strengthening in the subconscious organism, in the organism. We repeat certain chemical responses to people, places, and things, and it becomes comfortable. Even our suffering becomes comfortable because it's known. Okay, we need to be able to break the attachment to the known, to the comfort zones, in order to be able to move beyond that into what is possible, because we are infinite potential. So begin to work with the chemicals. Be aware of how the chemicals in the body attach you to these experiences, which are hard to leave behind, and be aware of that biochemical aspect. And I talked about that yesterday. Coming in, remember that when we come into coherence, this is actually how we vibrate at a higher vibrational frequency. Okay, so when you're vibrating at a higher vibrational frequency, this is why they say that the person in the highest vibrational frequency feels alone. But in reality, the opening of your and the expansion of your frequency will open you up to more of just the physical. It'll open you up into the non-physical ranges of your own expression, which are very important for you becoming whole as you experience this bigger picture of reuniting with the source, becoming the source again. Okay, so remember that through these archetypal passages and initiations that we experience in life, letting go of the past and allowing parts of us to end are essential for the evolution of the collective. And what we are essentially doing in these processes is that we are experiencing a heightened vibrational frequency of self-love. What are we doing? We go through the ending of an experience, we accept the experience, and in the process of acceptance, there are many ranges of emotions that we're going to feel. That's the biochemical part of it, until we return back to the source, which is you. You are the source. So you are returning back to the self, and that is where you begin to experience self-love. Okay, so in order to process endings, you want to return the energy back to yourself. Again, we are turning into a centripetal spin. Our entire multidimensional body becomes centripetal, a magnetic field that attracts all that is in alignment with itself. Therefore, everything that has we perceive as an ending becomes transmuted into what we need to experience next. And that is extremely important in our physical body. Okay. All right, my loves. Well, this was uh, the first part of this conversation of endings and how to process these endings. But I want to invite you to review some of these slides, and what we're going to do. Not this Friday, but next Friday, is have the group call on for everyone that has signed up for the expanded material on my website. Once again, you can register on the website in order to access the supplemental course material. And I just want to mention that there are two different things that are happening here. I have an event on the 15th of October, which is essentially looking at the reincarnation cycle. Okay, so we're going to deep dive into the mechanics of the reincarnation cycle. It's a very in-depth workshop that we're going to be working on together. And this is a different individual ticketed event, but it's an incredible compliment. And it's actually the reason why I did this challenge, because we have so much to talk about. But I will include the major highlights of this challenge in this course, where we will actually process and work in deep integration of these reincarnation cycles. And we're going to deprogram many past life programs through a hypnosis. We're going to do a group hypnosis where we're going to revisit some of these past lives and reintegrate fractals of ourselves in order to begin to shift that integration process. Okay, so this is a $50 for this specific course. You are welcome to join me. It is on October 15th, and I invite you to register on the website. I'm going to go ahead and put that invitation here in the chat. And I just want to mention that this event is separate from the challenge. This challenge is free on YouTube to follow along. You can follow for along free on YouTube, but you can also join the integrated, information and supportive documents on my website here, by registering for the entire challenge that you can follow along. And there is supported meditation prompts that will help support the integration of each one of these lectures that I give on a daily basis for the next 30 days. Okay, so you can check that out. And to join that is $10 for this. Okay, so it's a separate thing. I just want to clarify that because there was some confusion about these two products that I am providing for you this month, but I want to make sure that you guys access the one that you are most interested in. Okay, all right, my loves, I hope you guys have an incredible day, and I will see you tomorrow. Much love.